Hi, guys. Welcome back to episode 16 of Play Like a Girl. I'm your host, Gianna Cambria, and I'm excited to say that this week we have such an amazing guest. Her name is Maureen Shea. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's great to finally kind of meet you.
Yes. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. I was on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, I need to have this girl on my show. So let's get right into the first question that I had for you, which was, how did you get into boxing?
So I got into boxing when I was 17 years old. I never really seen boxing. I wasn't raised around boxing, although I'm Mexican and Irish. And so it's a very big boxing combination, both cultures. But it wasn't really big in my family. So my grandfather actually watched a lot of boxing with my mom, but I didn't find that out till later on. So the first fight that I had seen was when Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear, and it was kind of by accident. I was at a friend's house and they were having a fight party, his parents, and I went into the living room and I'm like, what is this? This is insane. I was like, this is kind of awesome. So the reason I felt that way was because I struggled with emotional stuff when I was younger too. Just a lot of anger, a lot of misplaced rage and things like that. So I was in different sports, but never found anything that really was like therapeutic for me. Or a real outlet that I could feel like I could channel that energy into. So fast forward a couple of years later, 17 years old, and I found myself in an abusive relationship. And I went to the gym to better myself for him and trying to lose weight and thinking I was fat and ugly and all-time low self-esteem. Walked into the back of the gym, and there was a boxing ring. And I was asked by one of the coaches there, Willie Soto, if I would like to try. And I said, okay. And I was small. I was super petite. I was anorexic, to be honest. I mean, I was anorexic. It was terrible. I was about 100 and maybe 111, 112 pounds, 5'4", and I went back there and they were like, oh, look, pretty girl. That's what I thought anyway. But I speak fluent Spanish, so I was able to connect with the coaches and with some of the guys because they speak Spanish. No females were back there at that time. And I fell in love with the sport after that, and it saved my life.
Wow, that's honestly an amazing feeling. Like, it was kind of your escape, and everybody needs that,
Absolutely.
What age did you realize you wanted to pursue this to like a professional level?
It was really funny. I never really thought about that. I just kept going and I just kept showing up, and I just fell so in love with the sport. I was like, I just want to get better every day, and I want to just keep getting better. And then I was like, all right, what do I do next? And they're like, oh, now you compete. So mind you, it wasn't this coach that took me to compete. I had to find another coach. And then he took me to do like a white collar bout, which it wasn't sanctioned by USA Boxing. So I didn't have a license or anything. And it was more like a glorified sparring session, but it felt like a fight. So I had 3 of those till I realized that coach really didn't want to get his license and take me there because it was like he just liked to do it for himself, And then we went to then I found another coach who is now my manager, Luigi Olcese, and he was like, no, we're going to have an amateur fight. And I think I started training with him within 4 months. I believe he had my first amateur bout.
Wow.
And I won. It was the Empire State Games in New York. It was the qualifiers to get to the Empire State Games. And there weren't a lot of females back then. It was late 90s, early 2000s, and there just weren't that many. So that was 21 when I had my first amateur bout. And then a couple of years later, we just kept fighting, and I only had 12 amateur fights. So women's boxing wasn't even introduced until the Olympics yet. Like, we weren't even considered to be like anything. I was in college. I was going to Iona College in New York, in New Rochelle. And so I was there, and they didn't recognize my sport as a collegiate sport. I had an academic scholarship that I lost because I went from 15 credits to 12 credits because of boxing. And it was tough. It was really tough. I had a nice chunk of change that was helping me go through get my bachelor's. And so when my manager said, let's, I think we should go pro, I had a very professional style. And so when we went pro, I just was like, okay, what's next? That was really what it was. So I can't say, back to your question, it wasn't really a decision. It was more just like, okay, what's next? For me anyway. I think my manager, who was my coach at the time, he knew kind of the steps he wanted to take with me. He brought me down to Gleason's gym in Brooklyn, where I trained with Hector Roca, who was a professional trainer, had been his trained several world champions. So he said, okay, he's going to be your boxing coach, and I'm going to be your manager. And I'm still with Luigi today. I'm not with Hector, but I'm with Luigi. And, so obviously it worked. Doing pretty good.
Yeah, for real. That's great, though. It's funny that you say that because I literally live like 10 minutes away from my own college.
Do you really? Oh, that's so funny. Did you know that I went there, or you didn't know that?
I didn't. I mean, I was assuming that you went somewhere in New York because I was reading about you, but that's crazy. I almost went to Iona.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I ended up going to URI instead, but it was like Iona gave me a lot of money, so I almost chose them.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you say that your coach Luigi has been like your biggest inspiration through all of this, or has like any of your family members inspired you to pursue this?
I'd have to say he's been my biggest supporter for sure. I guess I was always self-motivated and it was hard. I think about that now when people tell me like, oh my God, you inspire me. I can't say I was really inspired as a kid. I had a lot of issues. I had suffered with depression. I struggled with eating disorders. I went from anorexia to compulsive overeating. I just had, an array of issues, from like very young age. And I've been in therapy since I was 7. And I'm still in therapy, because I think it's extremely important, especially in my career, because you're you're a little off if you punch people in the face for a living. I mean, let's call it what it is. That's a little off. I mean, how many people do you know that enjoy it, you know what I mean? And then do it. And it's like, it's a lot, and fighters are a different animal, even MMA fighters, like any type of combat athlete, you're a different kind of special. But I'd have to say that he's been my biggest supporter. And he was a retired sergeant from New Rochelle. So yeah. So Luigi, and it's just so random because like, don't ever judge a book by its cover. Like you'd never know. People look at me, they'd never know that I was a fighter. They'd never know. Even when I was in college, I didn't tell anybody. But I was just very private. I was like, they don't need to know until I worked on $1 Million Baby. And then all of a sudden it was in the media and people were like, oh, she goes to Iona College. And then it was like a big deal. But they didn't give me back my scholarship though, which they could have done, but they did. But no, I would say he's been my biggest supporter. Luigi has really seen me through all my ups and downs since I was 21 years old. And, it's been pretty amazing. And I'm going to be 40 next month. So that's a long time.
Well, happy almost birthday.
Thank you. Yes, Capricorn. Woo!
I'm a Capricorn too. That's crazy.
I love it. When's your birthday?
January 11th. Is that your birthday? No way. My best friend Hope it's her birthday too. That's crazy.
That is, I just got the chills. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. That's so funny. You see that? You never know.
For real. So I was also, I interviewed a wrestler and she told me that she was struggling with weight and her coaches as a wrestler that they had to keep their weight down to a certain extent. And she was telling me one time she got the stomach virus and her coach was like, you lost the weight. Now we have to keep you there. We have to figure out how to keep your weight there. And she said that was such a blow on her. And she said it was mentally wrestling was so hard for her. So would you say that is kind of the same with boxing?
Okay. So I know one of my teammates, he's a Division I wrestler. And I see how MMA fighters make weight. I wouldn't say that, not now. I would say when, I never really, the good thing about my manager is struggling with eating disorders and going into boxing was really difficult. Having body dysmorphia and stuff, it was tough. So I had to really learn to have a really good relationship with food. And I had to do through therapy and through extensive reading and trying to really understand my body. I mean, I went from being a vegan to a vegetarian to a pescatarian to a raw foodist, trying to figure out what worked for me. And then I lost my gallbladder through that abusive relationship from stress and diet pills. So I was all kinds of messed up. But because of all that, I ended up understanding the importance of understanding your body and getting to know your body. So making weight for me, I think I wore plastics maybe in the amateurs. But then as I got older, I started actually fighting at lower weight classes. So people say it's harder to lose weight when you get older. I mean, for me, it's more like I have a lot of muscle. Yeah. So I have lower body fat, maybe 12% body fat around there. And so for me, it's more about understanding how to work within my body. And I go to Nova University. I went there. One of our trainers, our coaches at the performance center that I train at, he brought me down there. He did like this bod pod and this DEXA scan, all these things to see what a healthy weight is for my body to actually fight at and be healthy. So, I can get as low as 118. But I tend to now walk around. I walk around 128. I fight at 122 because I learned that I don't want to make the camp about making weight. I want to make it about the actual work. And then I like to eat, so I can still eat, I have my little cravings. I have an obsession with almond butter and peanut butter. And so I'm like, I need to have that. I make my own like Reese's. When you have to make weight, and I'm sure the other female that you spoke to could tell you, like, you get real creative, like super creative with stuff. And it's like, and it's tough because people are always like, oh my God, you have an amazing body. And I'm like, man, I work so hard for this. And sometimes like, unless the scale says what it's supposed to say, it's never perfect. Yeah. And that really starts, especially nowadays with social media. And, I feel for you younger girls because, man, it's like, we didn't have that. And even now, like, I don't care because I love my body and I've got to that place. But growing up in this social media type of world now, and I'm sick of looking at girls' butts, to be honest with you. It's like so annoying. I'm like, all right, great, got a big ass, congratulations. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like everything's focused on the rear end. And I'm just like, they're great. God bless them. It's not easy to do, but it's like, it's all about the body. It's not like, I want to see more of, I think women should celebrate their femininity and their bodies, but I think there needs to be something more behind that, not just always centered on that, because it's really making it tough for a younger generation. I really believe that.
Yeah, I definitely agree because there's been so many people that I know, so many of my friends from college that are just struggling like mentally because of social media and what they're seeing on there. Yeah. And it's just so like, it's honestly draining because I feel like all girls have the same problem. Like they look at a post and they're like, why can't I look like her? Or like they go to the gym and they're like, oh wow, like I want to look like this girl. And everybody is just like, it's so mentally draining, which I think is a good way. Like I think it's not good, but I think a good thing to do to distract yourself from that is to get into a sport like boxing or to get into
for sure. Yeah, do something for yourself. Yep.
And it gives you a time to put the phone away, get away from social media, and just like start doing better for yourself,
And it's been like my manager's been on me about my social media because I should have more followers and more this, and I'm almost at 10K, and I'm glad that I have not shown my rear end or my boobs. Yeah. Not those girls that have, like, that's your thing. God bless you. But I wanted to stay true to myself, and and that's just not me. But I am, and I realized I learned about posting more feminine photos of myself because I am very feminine. I get my nails done, I get my hair done, like I'm all about it. But like when I'm out and I'm like that, like I don't really think too much about taking a picture of myself. Yeah. And I don't know if it's like the generational thing, but we were at some fights the other night and I posted a picture of me in this outfit saying like the last weeks of my 30s. And it's just so funny because one of the guys that I manage, Jake Bostwick, was like, take a picture. He's always about it. He's so good with social media. So that's how I use him for my social media. Like he'll share stuff and then take pictures. Let me take a picture of you. I'm like, okay. Yeah. It helps. It helps.
It's really important though, like when people have careers like this.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to know, what is like a regular day of your training? What does it consist of?
Okay. So my life or my training, because it's a bit of a combination of the two.
Let's say.
Okay. So when I'm out of camp, which, I'm not getting ready for a fight, which will be an 8-week camp, which I'm going to be fighting in March. So I'll start that in January. But, a day for me, a typical day like today. So I also, besides being a professional boxer, I also am an executive assistant to Phil Daru, who is my strength and conditioning coach. And I also have 4 girls, females clients that I train, which I kind of did that. That was more for a passion project. I just want to be able, and it's unfortunate I can't train a whole group of women. I do an intro to women's boxing on Saturdays at a local gym just because it's kind of like, I want women that want to learn how to box to learn from me, not to just learn. I want to really teach them and give them that women and female empowerment. Yeah. And so I train those females. And then I also manage a bare knuckle fighter. So along with my training. So example would be like, you get up in the morning. This morning I went to the gym. I train boxing Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 9 a.m. I'm boxing. And then in the afternoons I'm at work. And if I'm in camp, I would be doing like some cardio in the evenings, but I'm working all throughout the day. So I had, did I have a client today? No, I didn't have a client today. I have 2 clients tomorrow. And then tomorrow I have strength and conditioning. So Tuesdays Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays are strength and conditioning day. So normally in the mornings, I would box those days sometimes, or I would spar, and then I would do my strength and conditioning, and then I'd work between all that. And then on Fridays, after boxing, I go to the stadiums with the strength and conditioning coach and the rest of the team, and then we do stadiums or sprints. And then on Saturday, we do a full body type of training, strength and conditioning. So it's literally 6 days a week, 2 times a day. It's a lot, you know, and I've had to learn, you know, I thought I was capable of doing this when I was younger, which is crazy because I definitely had more energy when I was younger, but my mind just couldn't take it all in. And I didn't think that I was able to balance, and it would take away from boxing and I wouldn't be the best that I could be. But my manager, Luigi, who I love, like when he used to tell me, he used to say kid, he called me kid. He's like, when you have too much time on your hands, it's no good. Mm-hmm. And I'm like a very all over. I love to be people like, you're all over all the time. I said, yeah, but it's like a controlled chaos, I like to call it, where like I know that there's a purpose to everything that I do, and I'm always getting better every day, and I'm always sharpening. But I know when to step back and to take a moment and take a break. Yeah. But it's training's pretty intense. I mean, when I start camp, right now I'm not really sparring. I won't start sparring until probably January, just because I've got over 30 professional fights, 12 amateur fights. It's just not necessary. And I'm a veteran in the sport. I've been doing it professionally for almost 16 years. Mm-hmm. So you get to a point where you're like, just get in there and just, you know, just to sharpen me up, and not having to like lose the weight and make weight really like struggle has helped a lot with that too. And it's maintained my health.
Yeah. Well, it's important to have a day for yourself when you have 6 to 7 days of training a week.
Yeah.
Back and go, all right, let me just get a breather.
Well, you know, and it's funny because everybody tells me that. That's why, like, my home is my sanctuary. You know what I mean? Like, I love my home. I have my dog. I don't know where he is. Chorizo. He's over here somewhere. He's so cute. Chorizo, come here. I don't know where he's ignoring. He's mad at me. He's got a mohawk. He's a Doxy Poo, and he's the best. Hey, come here. Oh, he's right there on the couch. I got to show it to you. I got to.
All right, bring him over.
Blends into the couch.
If you hear my dog barking, he's here too. He's the blue nose pit bull.
Oh, this is him.
God, he's so
you see him with his mohawk. Yeah, I'm gonna. But he's like my piece too. You know, I don't have kids, so I love coming home to him and we snuggle. He's super chill. He's like so not like me. He's like, I feel like I need a boyfriend like him, like just super chill, super. No, but he's cool. But yeah, so I do have days like I get manicures and pedicures and I'll get my hair done. But I probably need to do more me time. Mm-hmm. I was cool. I went out Saturday. We trained. I mean, I have other friends besides fighters, but like Saturday we all trained down at Steffi Cohen's gym. Steffi's a 25-time record-breaking powerlifter, mm-hmm. and she's amazing. She's a doctor of physical therapy, an entrepreneur. You should look her up and maybe have her on the show. Yeah. She's phenomenal. Yeah, she's great. And so she we went down there and we ended up spending the day with her, you know, and hanging out, and all of us, all athletes, like all elite athletes, just hanging out together. You know what I mean? And it's cool because we all kind of have the similar lives, mm-hmm. you know? And the rigor of the rigorous days and the thinking and the constantly have to be and the social media stuff and everything. But we all just got to kind of just chill, you know?
I definitely feel you on that aspect because a lot of my friends are from the sports that I played. So like I have friends from skating, and then I also have friends from softball, and I have so much in common with them. So when we hang out, it's just a blast.
Yeah, but it's nice when they're females. It's hard to find female boxers, you know, like that. And it's different because a lot of them are younger now. So Alicia Ashley, who's another girl you should have on the show, she's a Guinness Book of World Record 2 times, you know, for being the oldest female active champion. You know, she was a sparring partner of mine. She's amazing. And so, but she doesn't live here. She's in Shanghai right now training people. You know, so it's like, I don't get to connect, but it's nice to connect with, like, I have Angelica Delgado, who's a judoka. And you should have her on the podcast too. She's great, but she's another female that I really connect with, and we train with Phil as well, you know. And then there's some MMA fighters, but it's mostly the guys. Like it's mostly the guys that I'm around.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
The last question I had before we go to commercial is, how did the coronavirus affect your training or your day-to-day life? Really?
Gym in my garage.
Really?
We did. So my boxing coach, Derek Santos, we were like, all right, so the gym is closing down. Let's just put the heavy bag in the garage. Let's figure out what we can do. And it was awesome. I had like UFC fighters coming into my garage just training. I had professional boxers. Everybody just I'm like, if my neighbors knew who was in my garage right now, they'd be like, what? It was so funny. But yeah, pretty much that's what we did. And then Phil, my strength and conditioning coach, he sent us all his body. He has a programming. He does programming, online programming on his website, DrewStrong.com. And he, not that I'm promoting him, but check it out. He does that. It's called Body Armor. And it was like all body weight stuff. So while we were all in quarantine, we just started doing that kind of training. And then he ended up opening a gym and stuff. The thing with boxing is you find a way.
Yeah.
I've trained in the basement of houses in the ghetto. I've trained in parks. Today I had my client, we were at the gym and we built a ring with battle ropes. You know what I mean? We're like, all right, we got it, because we're at the boxing gym with the strength and conditioning gym, and I didn't have a boxing ring, and I need to show her how to cut off the ring. So you find a way, and when you're around those like-minded people that are like, they're like, no, we're not going to just give up, and plus like fighters, that's just us. It's in our DNA. We just
For real. No, well, it's great that you were fortunate enough to do that in your garage. Like that's
small. It's a small garage, but we just it just so happened I had this overhang, and Derek was like, we can hang a heavy bag, like a small heavy bag from there. We put a double end bag, and then he came over and he did a ton of mitt work with everybody. So God bless him, for doing that for us. But he's that kind of a coach. I've trained with a lot of coaches, and I've trained with a lot of great coaches, and a lot of them had good hearts. And Derek, I'm just fortunate to have trained with so many coaches that have such amazing hearts for their fighters, and he's definitely one of them. I see how much he puts into it, and he genuinely cares, and that's hard to find.
No, I definitely get it. So let's go to commercial break now. When we get back, we can talk about your coaches and the impact that they've had on you so far.
Okay, sounds good.
Hi guys, welcome back to episode 16 of Play Like a Girl. We have Maureen with us today, and she's amazing. We're going to talk about the impact that her coaches have had on her. And I was going to say, I feel the same, because my coaches have had such a huge impact on my life, not only of my sport, but like on who I turned out to be. So can you tell us about your coaches and how they've done that to you?
So I trained with different coaches, starting in Gleason's gym with Hector Roca. And then I trained out in Jersey with, Tommy Brooks and Terrific Gist. And then I went from there down out to California, where I trained with Joseph Janik, and then Joseph Janik to the boxing laboratory with Adam Flores, to now being with Derek Santos. And I think that I've learned a lot of lessons working with each of these individuals.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about myself, a lot about, just growing in the sport and accomplishments. I had one fight, I had multiple fights with Hector Roca. I won my first title with Terrific Gist. And I won 2 world titles and a regional title with Joseph Janik in Ventura, California. And now I'm going for my 3rd world title with Derek Santos and Phil Daru, my strength and conditioning coach. So it's been pretty amazing. I got to say, so with Derek, what's interesting about his impact in with me is he's the first coach that I've ever had that was as calm. I'd have to say Terrific was pretty calm and Haas was pretty calm, but Derek's a different kind of calm. And I thought that maybe he wasn't enough for me. You know what I mean? And so when I first trained with him, I actually was like, oh, this isn't going to work. And so I went back to California. And then when I came back the second time, I realized it wasn't Derek that changed. It was me that changed. And I learned that that's exactly what I needed. Somebody that was that calm, plus, my manager always tell me, Maureen, you're a veteran now. You have to learn, what you need, be more confident in what you need. Don't think that, because, I've always been very respectful of my coaches and I let them lead, but I also needed to be more vocal with what I needed. And they needed to respect that because of my experience. So I have to say, I don't think I was as vocal enough with what I needed in the past, until I think now where I'm at in my career. And so I talked to Derek and I said, listen, in order for me to work with you, I need to work with Phil Daru. I met Phil Daru about in 2016. I had met him out here in Florida, and he was at American Top Team at the time, and he trains multiple world champions and UFC fighters, and so he's very young in the sport. I think I met him; he was 27, I think. And so it was like he's watched me grow and I've watched him grow. And so when I came back here, I knew, because I had met him before I had met Derek, and I worked with him consistently before I met Derek. But I got to tell you, the combination of the two of them, it's like the perfect storm for me in a positive way. Because they're both very quiet. They're both very but Derek has this way of telling you things, and then Phil's got this. He just has this very strong aura where he's a Viking. So he's it's like everybody knows him, but sometimes it works against him because then people are scared of him. But it's like this, and people say that Derek has the same thing. Derek doesn't seem approachable. He's just quiet. You know what I mean? He's a man of few words, but when he speaks, he says a lot. And Phil's the same way, and Luigi's the same way. So I've got all these men, and I'm like I need the balance because I'm literally the firecracker of the group.
Yeah.
I feel to have these kinds of men around me has really helped me balance myself, and taught me a lot about myself, and really given me some insight into, what I need to strengthen in my character. So it's really about the people you put around you. And the other thing that Luigi would always tell me, he's like, Maureen, this is your career. You have to own your career. This is your choice. Boxing is a very lonely sport. And it's a very individualistic sport, which is what I fell in love with about it. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a very risky sport. Yeah. And you gotta really, really be sure of what you're doing and why you're doing it, because you can really get hurt in there. And make sure those people around you have your best interest. And I feel like everybody around me did, but I feel like I said, I need to be more vocal in what I needed. And when I moved to Florida, I left California because of my parents live in Florida, and my father was getting older, and he's going to be 80, and he's not doing well. I mean, he's okay, but he's 80. My mom's 77, and she's doing great. She's phenomenal. But it's like, I want to be close to my family. I've been away from my family for over 10 years, and it's all been for my sport. I've sacrificed a lot for this sport. And, sometimes it's tough, but I'm like, I don't think I would have had it any other way, because I've experienced things in my life that you wouldn't believe. You would not believe the things that I never, I heard a girl say something. I heard it on a show. I don't know. And again, I'm very opinionated. I wouldn't say I'm judgmental, but I'm very opinionated. And it was a boxing, and she's a fighter, and she said, oh, she wants to be famous. That's not why you want to get into boxing. You know what I mean? And maybe the commentators kind of I don't know if they got the whole story correctly, but I was like, man, I hope that's not why she's doing this, because she definitely has a lot more to learn and grow. She's not terrible, but she's got a lot more to work on. But I said, man, I never thought about that in my life. Even with $1 Million Baby, I didn't audition to work with Hilary Swank. I didn't, it happened. Preparation meeting opportunity. The opportunity presented itself. I was there, and I was asked to work with her, and I did. Well, and the rest took on a life of its own.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about them, your coaches being kind of like your family. Yep. I was gonna say that's always a great feeling to have, no matter what sport you go into, because I would say that my coaches, there's two of them. One of them was the scary coach that everybody was scared of, or that everybody didn't want to get on her bad side, and the other one was so goofy with us, and she was like, "It's okay, you guys, whatever." And then my teammates were just my second family, and if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have pursued my sport as far as I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I definitely feel when you get that feeling when all of them are on the ring with you, that's how I feel with my teammates.
Yeah, and it's so cool. I really, on Saturday, and I didn't even tell all of them, but I was really taking in the whole, just all of us hanging out. We threw Phil with the help of his wife, Mariah. She's amazing. We wanted to throw him a thank you, because he kept the gym open during COVID, but he had a private gym, but he made sure that we got our programming, that we didn't lose a step. None of us. any of the MMA fighters or the boxers. And he even was working with a football team in Deerfield. So he's so on it. Feels amazing. He's so like, and Derek's the same way. He was coming here to my garage to train everybody, but I feel like we all have to kind of work collectively as a unit, to help each other. And so we had a barbecue at his house, and it was so awesome to see judokas, MMA fighters, boxers, wrestlers, like everybody just hanging out.
And they all came together.
Everybody's getting, and those are very individualistic sports.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's just really cool to see all that. Not to say, I played softball, I played soccer, I played tennis, I played all those sports, and I did gymnastics and jazz. Like, they had me in everything, but I wasn't good at team sports.
Yeah.
I liked to be more about me. You know what I mean? Like, it was more like I needed to have all the pressure on me because I work really well under pressure. If I had to pass the ball or something like that, or it wasn't contact enough for me.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it though. And I kind of, even in boxing, I kind of saw how, well, actually in Iona, they contacted me about doing rugby intramural. And I wanted to do it, and I went for the tryout, and my manager was like, no. He's like, absolutely not. I was like, I just want to feel like a team sport. I just want to experience it. He's like, no, you're not a team person. Just no.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but you know what? We are a family. And I think, again, not that any other sport, because when you have your losses or you have a bad game or you get an injury, I think it's the same for a team sport as it is for an individualistic sport. I just feel like, and I have to say it, I feel like with boxing and MMA, it's so mental, like it's emotional and mental. And like those are, I think I have to say, like the two hardest sports, because you're like getting literally beaten, you know what I mean? And if you're not okay in here, like, man, I was so screwed up in one of my fights that when I got hit, I felt like I deserved it because I wasn't healed from my abusive relationship.
Okay.
So I'm talking like, and I've talked about this publicly, I do motivational speaking and stuff. It was so bad, that I was like for a second, I let her hit me. You know what I mean? And it wasn't her, it was my own demons.
Yeah. So
like, that's why I really believe in sports psychology and therapy. I speak to a therapist every week, and she's great. And she works with, because when Luigi would always say, when your school isn't going well, your boxing's not going to go well. When your boxing's not going well, your life's not going to go well. Your school, they all play together. Yeah. So it's really important to be balanced.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, maintaining my femininity and still taking care of myself and doing my hair and not always wearing gym clothes, it's important for me to get dressed up and take care of myself and do other things. It's the balance. But yeah, the team is definitely, we need that. I had it. I didn't feel like I had it too much in Gleason's. It takes a very unique group of people. Yeah, I think I had a great team in Knuckleheads in Ventura, with Haas. We had a great team out there. They're probably the closest I've ever had to what I have now. Mm-hmm. And I'm so lucky that I've experienced that twice.
Yeah.
Because fighters never experience that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great though. So what would you say it means to be a fighter?
What does it mean to be a fighter? It means, discipline, determination, mental toughness, resiliency, vulnerability.
Yeah.
Vulnerability, I think, is probably, I've never been like, I just posted something the other day. I don't know if you saw it, about my hand. When I
ask you about that, yeah.
I had never spoken about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it not because I was like, it was more about me. Like, I was going through it, and I was like, and I'm proud of myself because, I was talking to my therapist, and I said to her, I was like, she's like, why are you not sharing it? Or not that you have to on social media, but in general, why are you hiding it?
Yeah.
I said, because I'm not dealing with it very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's almost like a breakup too. When you go to break, it's like the last thing you want to do is like, oh, where's so-and-so? You don't want to talk about it. So you just don't want to go out because you don't want people to talk to you about it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like what I felt like with my hand, because they told me I'd never box again. And I was literally trying to I was like, do I need to grieve my career? Because it's really not over. Or they don't know what they're talking about, but do they? But, it was just such a hard time. And I think that, that vulnerability, I was super vulnerable.
Yeah.
But giving it to God, for me, giving it to God and just saying, you know what, I'm going to just be. Mm-hmm. And then I stepped out, and I actually went to some fights, and I had my cast on, and Pictures, I hid it, you know what I mean? But I was around fighting people. I was like, screw it. I'm not going to go out and not be around people because I'm in a cast.
Yeah.
If people ask me about it, I hurt my hand. I realized you don't have to explain yourself to everybody. I think, when I was younger, I felt like I had to.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I had to prove myself. And that was another reason why I went with boxing. My dad said, in this house, you have to work and go to school. You can't do all three. And I said, watch me. Then $1 Million Baby happened. And then they were like, oh, you're only a sparring partner. I said, no, I'm not. Watch me. Then it was like, all right, now you're a professional. You're going to be a world champion. I said, I'm going to do it. Watch me. You know what I mean? And then finally, I was like, I don't give a shit what everybody else thinks. Like, I do this for me. I'm sure you've come to this, like finding out your why, discovering your why. And I would say this to a lot of younger females or males. When you're going to do something and it's going to take a lot of your time and it's going to be a risk and it's really going to, you're going to have to sacrifice. Think about why you're doing it. Write down a list as to why you're doing it and make sure that why is you're good with that why. Because it's hard. Because sometimes you do things off of emotion, off of just like, screw it, or whatever. And I did that a lot as a kid. And I think that I made my road a little bit harder for myself. But when I decided, when I moved to Florida and I said, no, I'm going to continue because I got injured again. I hurt my wrist. And then later on that, I hurt my ankle. I tore a ligament in my ankle. And I'm like, and then I had a coach tell me that my feet were clumsy. I was old and I should retire. And I wanted to punch him in his face because he was absolutely wrong. Yeah. But I looked at him. I said, I respectfully disagree with you. And I had to really just rediscover my why. See, that's something that people didn't tell me, that when you have your why, that why changes. It's not always going to stay the same. So you've got to rediscover it. And what's awesome about being a woman, and I mean, men can go through it too, but women go through it. We always rediscover ourselves every couple of years. And, and what I could say to you and to younger girls is don't be afraid to rediscover yourself. Yeah. Don't think because one part of your life ends that if you're not going to take it with you onto the next. And it's the same thing with me. I've moved, I don't know how many times in how many years, and I've rediscovered myself with every move. And I look at photos from way back when. I mean, you saw the pictures. I had red hair, I had short hair, you know what I mean? I'm just like, dude, I just rediscovered myself. And I changed my hairstyle. Now I got blonde hair, you know what I mean? And I got a longer piece and it's got like some kind of like things on it. But, and I'm having fun. Yeah. I think that's what it's about, rediscovering yourself and having fun while doing it. Fear's going to creep in. It's definitely going to creep in and insecurity will creep in and uncertainty is going to creep in. But when you understand your why and you have a really good idea of it, it helps kind of those things kind of go to the side.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And when you were talking about your injury before and you said, I have to just be, one of my dating coaches who passed away from breast cancer used to say that to us all the time. So something that my team lives by and just my family in general, because she had such a huge impact on us, is just be. So
it's so hard. It's the best thing, but the hardest thing. And sometimes we just want to figure it out. And that's where, for me, faith comes in and my relationship with God comes in. Yeah. Where I'm like, he makes me be still. When I'm in scripture or I'm in prayer and I'm just like, just be still. I was doing that today. I was in the gym and I'm like, I didn't feel great this morning. And, the younger me would have been like, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? And I was like, you know what? I'm here. I showed up. I'm going to give 100% of whatever I have. Yep. And then we'll go from there. And I may feel bad afterwards because I'm going to, because I know me. I didn't do enough. I didn't do my best. But it's like, I did it. You know what I mean? Like, don't beat yourself up because it wasn't what you were 2 days ago. You'll get there again. And I think like I went through that when I was in California. I remember it's random. It was before my injury. And I remember coming back to the corner. I was sparring. I had a bad sparring session. And I came back to the corner. I looked at Haas and I was like, what's the matter with me? Did I lose it? And he's like, did you lose what? I'm like, my ability to box. He was like, no. It's like, I was so in my feelings and I was and that's, I think, being a female. I think that's normally, and yeah, they say women are emotional. Yeah, we got freaking crazy hormones. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot. But we're supposed to be emotional. We're nurturers. We bear children. We can also take the pain, like women are amazing, and we should be celebrated for all this stuff. And when they call us crazy, it's like, no, we're beautifully made and just so, I don't want to say it's not complicated. It's intricate, and so that comes in. I mean, when you're in that sport and you're just like going through all this stuff, and I don't know, I was probably getting my period. I don't remember. I mean, but that's okay too, because the hormones are like this. And I'm like, but I had to learn too to tell my coaches that, you know, in boxing, let me tell you, when I first started, you couldn't talk about your period. Like I couldn't tell them nothing.
Yeah.
Whatever, because you had to prove yourself. Now you can talk about it. Now your coaches ask you, so what's your cycle like? I'm like, I never got asked that before. You know, Phil knows because Phil has to know because he's got to know when I'm lifting. I mean, I tell Derek's just, he never trained a female of my caliber, but you know, he's very easy to talk to and he listens and he cares. So I tell him, like, I know you probably don't want to hear this when I first told him, but he's like, no, he's like, if it's gonna affect you, you should tell me because I want to help you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's important. And I think women, we need to be supported in those ways, not treated like, you know, we're broken.
Yeah, exactly.
That, you know, because actually it makes us better.
Well, that's why this podcast is called Play Like a Girl.
Yeah.
Empowerment. But I was going to say, like, when, you know, almost everybody that I've interviewed for this podcast had told me that whatever sport they played, there had always been a time where they were in their head and it took so long for them to get out. And even me, like when for skaters, we have to take tests. And like when you pass your senior test, you get a gold medal. And I used to wake up at 6 a.m. And there was one time I just couldn't complete the move that I was trying to do. And I literally sat down on the ice and I was like, why can I not do this right now? I was the only one on the ice practicing by myself. I was like, what is going on? Like, how is this happening? I'm testing tomorrow. Like, I was so in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. And I've had that. Like I trained at, I actually trained we're in Yonkers and Mount Vernon at, it's called Form A Fast. And so Vincent Sullivan was my coach and he was like, I would do Olympic lifts with him. And I remember I'd get to the platform and I lifted that weight like the week before. And he's like, walk away from the platform. He's the one that first taught me, walk away, go take a breather, you know, because I'm like, no, and I think it's a Capricorn trait too. We're like, no, we're going to get it. You know what I mean? We're very hard on ourselves and we're ghosts. So we're like slow, steady climbers. We have to keep climbing. Not that I'm like the big into the zodiacs, but I find personality things with our signs. Yeah. So I think that like that happened with him. And then Phil, it's the same way. I posted something the other day about today actually about my coaches. When my coaches go to spot me, like, don't touch the weight. I could have like, it could be so much weight on the bar. And I'm just like, don't touch it. Or I'm squatting. I'm like, don't touch it. Don't grab me. It looks like you're helping me. Like, I got this, you know, but I think, you definitely in boxing. I mean, man, if you've got unresolved issues outside of the ring, like relationships have been a big thing for me. I think, relationships with men, because I don't want a guy in my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's tough. Like, and I grew up with that. Like, I always wanted to date. I wanted to have a boyfriend. I was always like a relationship person. And, dating, I wasn't really good at dating because I just didn't have time. But like, when I meet somebody, I get to know them. I was really more centrally focused on one person. And, I think with that, if it didn't work out, you know what I mean? And then I was like totally single for like 5 years here and there, because I was like, man, it's not worth it. I just love my sport so much. I don't want to, I don't want to deal with that, but it's also difficult. I found, from my level of where I am, even now, it's tough because I have a very demanding life, between work and still boxing, still fighting. I mean, eventually when I retire, my life will be a little bit different, but I'm always going to be a worker, but I'll probably have more time. But yeah, there's been a lot of sacrifices and a lot of stuff, but even getting in your head about that stuff, it still happens. It doesn't ever stop. Yeah. So you have some more to look forward to. Understanding and control of it. Trust me, you definitely will.
Okay. So the last question that I wanted to leave you with to answer, I ask this to everybody before they leave. What do you think it means to play like a girl, and why is it so important for the younger generations of female to understand that?
What it means to play like a girl. So I love the term because they say like fight like a girl. And I'm going to start with this. My answers are never short. So when people would ask me, what does it mean to fight like a girl? I said, I fight like an athlete. I said it's male or female. There's no gender in the sport boxing. Like, it's not boxer. You know what I mean? It's like a female boxer. It's like, they say female boxer. Well, no crap, I'm a female, but I'm a boxer. You don't say man boxer, female boxer. Why do you put a female in front of it? So I said, I'm a boxer. That's what I do. That's who I am. And that's how I fight, like an athlete. But what I found is being, playing like a female we bring something special to the sport.
Yeah.
You know, I always used to say you never see a boring women's fight, whether they're skilled or not skilled. You never see a boring women's fight, you know, because women fight with so much heart and so much passion and emotion. There's emotion there, but it's passion, you know. That's important. Embrace that. That's one thing I would tell the younger generation is embrace that. You know, especially now with women, you know, the skill level is getting better in boxing because now, you know, when I started, I had to learn on the job. And I'm one of the best in the world, and I'm one of the most technical in the world. And then you have these amateur girls who went to the Olympics who are now still becoming more polished, you know, and they're getting better, and now they're in the pros and they're developing in the professional ranks, which is amazing and it's awesome to watch, you know. But I love how they bring their femininity into the ring. You know, I fight in a skirt because I move, I dance when I fight, and I love that. And I feel like that's the femininity. You know, even the toughest girls that fight, there's still a feminine factor about them. You know, femininity doesn't mean prissy and all that. It just means it's empowering. It's powerful. Feminine presence that no man can have. And, you know, people ask me if I want to fight a man and things like that. I'm like, no, I don't want to fight a man. I want to marry a man. You know what I mean? Like, no, I don't want to fight a man. Like, it's not. It wouldn't even be fun because I'd look better. You know what I mean? Like, what the heck, you know? But like, even with like seeing the guys fight, they're special in their element. But we're special in our element. So don't compare yourself to the men. Don't try to be like the men. You know, I definitely watched men when I was coming up because there weren't females to watch. I said they weren't accessible. You know, like that's why I try to be like, I love doing podcasts like this and sharing my experiences and my knowledge with the younger generation, because I didn't have that. I didn't have women that were accessible for me to ask and talk to. Alicia Ashley was really one of the only ones. You know, she was wonderful with helping me, and I'm so blessed that I had her. But it was just tough, just not having a you know, different types of women that I could kind of get different advice from. You know, so you're doing this podcast. You know, I think, you know, women like you know, doing things like this and having a platform, you're really sharing so much, and even your story. Like I want to get you on a podcast and hear your story, because I loved ice skating. I couldn't do it, and that's another individualistic sport. And I've seen, well, not just the Nancy Kerrigan documentary, but you know, I've just seen so much with skating and gymnastics. Yeah. I think that they're so similar, you know, and it's like, it's such a, it's very mental, you know, when you're out there on that ice and it's like, you're not really in control of much, you know, same thing with the boxing, you know what I mean? I admire that and I respect that so much, you know. I think it's great that you're giving this a platform. So to answer your question, I think just embracing your femininity and embracing yourself as a woman, and don't compare yourself to any men, because it's not worth it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That was a great answer to that question.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, it was amazing having you on the show, and I really loved talking to you.
Yeah, ditto.
Hopefully I can have you on again, because I want to hear more about your story.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, if there's anybody that you want to have on, like, you know, I can send you some names, or I can send you some of their Instagram so you can check them out. And then I would love to reach out to them and let them know that you'd love to contact them, because I think what you're doing is awesome.
Yeah, that would be great.
If I can help, let me know.
Yeah, for real. No, that's fantastic. If you can send me them, that would be amazing. I would love to have you on, like I said before. But I hope you have a great night, and happy birthday.
Thank you. You too.
I'll be with you on the same day.
Yes, we'll celebrate.
Have a good one. All right. So what an amazing guest to have on Play Like a Girl. She had so much to say, and you know, she said she fights like a girl. Everything that she does is because she plays like a girl, she fights like a girl. And I think that was just amazing. Her story is so inspiring, and she was just preaching words of wisdom. So go check her out on Instagram, Facebook, watch her fights. But yeah, guys, make sure you come back to episode 17 of Play Like a Girl next week, because we have another amazing guest. And have a great night. Bye.